Welcome to our Amour Stories.
Once upon a splendid era, there dwelled a prosperous merchant named Baron Thisledown in the enchanting city of Celestia. Baron Thisledown was renowned for his vast wealth and had the pleasure of residing in a magnificent mansion adorned with the finest treasures, served by a legion of opulently dressed servants. Every meal graced his table on dishes of pure gold and silver, and his daughters adorned themselves in gowns fashioned from the most exquisite fabrics, adorned with precious gemstones. Among his three beloved daughters, the eldest was known as Lady Marigold, and the second was called Lady Dresselinda. They were a vivacious pair who reveled in attending lavish galas and extravagant feasts. However, the youngest, Lady Seraphina, had an affection for her home and cherished her time spent with her aging father. Fate, however, had its own plans for Baron Thisledown. Tragedy struck when a violent tempest ravaged his merchant ships, carrying invaluable cargo on treacherous seas. In the blink of an eye, his vast fortune vanished, leaving him with naught but a humble cottage nestled in the tranquil countryside. Reluctantly, he relocated there, and his three daughters dutifully followed him. Lady Marigold and Lady Dresselinda, once accustomed to a life of opulence, found themselves bitter and despondent over the loss of their wealth. They, who had been the cynosure of every social gathering, were now consigned to the confines of a modest dwelling. Lady Seraphina, on the other hand, remained steadfast in her devotion to her father. While her elder sisters lamented their misfortune, Lady Seraphina took it upon herself to be the beacon of hope in their newfound abode. With grace and kindness, she undertook the responsibilities that befell their diminished household. She lit the hearth and prepared their meals, for their father's circumstances had become so dire that they could no longer afford even a single servant. As time passed, Lady Marigold and Lady Dresselinda wallowed in their discontent. Yet, her sisters persisted in their unkindness, making Lady Seraphina's life a trial with their ceaseless complaints. They not only shunned any form of labor, but also criticized every action she took. Through it all, Lady Seraphina bore their unkindness with unwavering patience, all for the love of her father. Once upon a splendid era, there dwelled a prosperous merchant known as Lord Alistair, graced with three lovely daughters. Their abode was a resplendent mansion nestled within the heart of the enchanting city of Celestia. Grand liveried servants attended to their every need, and their meals were presented on dishes of glistening gold and silver. Their sumptuous gowns, woven from the rarest fabrics and adorned with glistening gemstones, were the envy of all. A year of opulence passed, and then, one fateful day, a letter arrived at Lord Alistair's doorstep. Eager to share the joyous tidings with his daughters, he sought them out with great haste. "My dear children," he exclaimed, "our fortune has taken a turn for the better. This letter bears news that one of our presumed lost ships has safely returned to the harbor. If this be true, our days of hardship may soon be behind us. Though we may not regain our former opulence, we shall know comfort once more. Beauty, fetch my traveling cloak, for I shall depart immediately to claim our ship. But before I leave, tell me, my dear girls, what shall I bring back for each of you?" Marigold, without hesitation, declared, £100. Dresselinda chimed in, her voice brimming with desires. "I long for a new silk gown, a vivid apple green adorned with seed pearls, green shoes with daring red heels, an emerald necklace, and a box of gloves." "And for you, my dearest beauty?" inquired Lord Alistair. "You silly child," Marigold scolded. "You seek to appear more selfless than us, that's your game. A mere rose, indeed." "Dear sister," Beauty retorted gently, "that was not my intention. I simply thought our father has enough on his plate ensuring the safety of our ship. It wouldn't be fair to burden him with shopping for me." Nonetheless, Marigold and Dresselinda were deeply offended and retreated to their chamber to dream of the lavish treasures they would acquire upon their father's return. Meanwhile, Lord Alistair embarked on his journey to the city, his heart brimming with hope and grandiose plans for their newfound wealth. However, upon his arrival, he was met with a cruel trick, for no ship of his had graced the harbor. He found himself in a dire predicament, no better off than before. In a bygone era, there lived a prosperous merchant named Sir Reginald, who found himself in the delightful company of 3 charming daughters. Their abode was an opulent mansion nestled in the heart of the picturesque city of Celestia. Dressed in resplendent liveries, a retinue of servants attended to their every whim. Gold and silver dishes cradled their sumptuous feasts, and their gowns, crafted from the most exquisite fabrics adorned with gleaming gemstones, were the envy of the realm. One fateful day, Sir Reginald received a letter that cast a shadow of uncertainty over his opulent life. With a heavy heart, he spent the entire day investigating the authenticity of the letter. As dusk descended, he reluctantly embarked on the journey back home, weary and famished, having tasted no food since the morning. The path led him through a vast, ancient forest, cloaked in darkness. A distant light beckoned through the trees, prompting Sir Reginald to forsake his intended destination and follow the guiding glow in search of sustenance and shelter. Anticipating a humble woodcutter's cottage, he was astounded. Throughout his exploration, he encountered not a single soul. A roaring fire warmed the hall, and having sought solace in its comforting heat, he resolved to seek out the owner of this magnificent abode. To his astonishment, he found his quest short-lived, as behind the first door he opened lay a cozy room, with a sumptuous supper prepared for one, a sight so tempting that even a glance stirred the appetite. Undaunted, Sir Reginald seated himself and enjoyed a hearty repast. With newfound sustenance coursing through his veins, he set forth once more in search of the palace's elusive master. However, as he opened another door, he encountered a chamber dominated by a luxuriously inviting bed. Mere sight of it induced drowsiness, leading Sir Reginald to surmise, this must be the work of the fairies. Perhaps it's best not to continue my search for the master of this house. With that conclusion, he succumbed to the allure of the bed, and, being utterly fatigued, he fell into a deep slumber, awakening only with the morning sun. Upon rousing, Sir Reginald was astonished to find himself ensconced in a sumptuous, comfortable bed. As his memories of the previous day flooded back, he contemplated, I must depart, but I wish I could express my gratitude to my gracious host for the restful night and splendid supper. Stepping out of bed, he discovered another blessing, a fine set of new garments, expertly tailored and embroidered with his name. Moreover, every pocket held 10 gold coins, clinking with the promise of newfound prosperity. Clad in a resplendent suit of blue and silver, Sir Reginald felt like a different man, his pockets laden with golden coins that jingled with possibility. In a time of yore, there lived a prosperous merchant named Lord Alaric, blessed with 3 charming daughters. Their opulent residence graced the splendid city of Fairytale. One sunny morning, as Lord Alaric descended the grand staircase of the mansion, he discovered a lavish breakfast awaiting him in the same charming chamber where he had dined the previous evening. After savoring a satisfying repast, he resolved to take a leisurely stroll through the enchanting garden. Descending the marble steps into the lush garden, he was greeted by a mesmerizing display of roses in myriad hues, red, white, pink, and yellow. As he admired the blossoms, he recalled his youngest daughter's fervent wish. "Oh, my beloved daughters," he murmured, "what a grievous disappointment it shall be for them to learn that my ship has not returned as anticipated. Yet beauty, at the very least, shall have her heart's desire." With this resolve, he extended his hand and plucked the largest red rose within reach. The moment the stem snapped in his grasp, a shiver of dread coursed through him, for he was met with a furious roar. In the next heartbeat, a fearsome beast lunged at him. Towering over any man, the beast's visage was a grotesque blend of ugliness, yet its voice, surprisingly, carried traces of humanity. "Ingrate!" the beast bellowed. "Have I not provided you with sustenance, shelter, and attire? And now you must repay my hospitality by pilfering the sole object I hold dear, my roses." "Mercy, I implore," cried the merchant. "No," retorted the beast, "you must face the consequences." Desperate, the merchant sank to his knees, seeking words that might soften the heart of this cruel creature. At last he stammered, "Sir, I plucked this rose solely at the request of my youngest daughter. I could not have fathomed that, after all the kindness you've shown me, you would begrudge me a simple flower." "Tell me of this daughter," the beast demanded suddenly. "Is she a virtuous girl?" "The kindest and most virtuous of all," the merchant replied, his tears flowing freely as he contemplated leaving Beauty alone in the world. "Oh, what will become of my dear children without me?" "You should have pondered that prior to stealing the rose." The despairing merchant agreed, thinking, "At least I have been granted 3 more months of life." The beast continued, "I shall not let you leave empty-handed." They returned to the palace, where a magnificent chest of intricately wrought silver lay upon the floor. "Fill this chest with whatever treasures you desire," the beast instructed. The merchant eagerly complied, selecting precious items from the beast's treasury. "I shall arrange for it to be delivered to your home," the beast assured him, closing the chest's lid. In a distant time and place, there lived a wealthy merchant, known far and wide for his boundless riches. He had 3 daughters, and together they resided in an exquisite mansion nestled within a breathtaking city. An opulent life was their privilege, complete with a legion of servants adorned in splendid attire, and feasts served on dishes of purest gold and silver. Their gowns were masterpieces of craftsmanship, woven from the most luxurious fabrics and adorned with an array of dazzling gemstones. With a heavy heart, the merchant embarked on his journey, and as he passed through the grand palace gate, the beast reminded him of Beauty's request for a rose. In that very moment, the beast offered him a generous bouquet of the most exquisite roses. Upon his return to their cottage, the merchant presented Beauty with the bouquet, saying, "Cherish these, my dear, for they have come at a great cost to your father." He then proceeded to recount the entire story, holding nothing back. His 2 elder daughters wept and lamented, as they were prone to do, and naturally they laid blame on Beauty for the unfortunate turn of events. "If not for your foolish desire for a rose, our father would have left the palace unharmed, with his new attire and his gold coins," they chastely said. "No," Beauty firmly retorted, "it is my life that shall bear the burden, for when the 3 months are through I shall journey to the beast's palace. He may take my life if he wishes, but my dear father shall remain untouched." Though her father tried earnestly to dissuade her, Beauty's resolve remained unwavering. And discovered the familiar small room, adorned with a table set for 2, a sight that ignited the appetite. "Take heart, dear father," Beauty consoled him. "I do not believe the beast intends to harm me. Surely he would not have provided such a splendid meal if he sought my demise." Just then, the beast entered the room. Startled, Beauty screamed and clung to her father. "Fear not," the beast spoke gently. "But tell me, have you come here of your own volition?" "Yes," Beauty replied, trembling. "You are indeed a virtuous soul," the beast acknowledged. He then turned to the old man, explaining that he might stay the night, but come morning, he must depart, leaving his daughter behind. They retired to their beds and slept soundly through the night. When dawn broke, the father departed, his heart heavy with sorrow. In a distant realm, there lived a wealthy merchant, renowned for his fortunes, who had 3 daughters. They resided in a splendid mansion within a captivating city, surrounded by grand servants adorned in lavish attire. Their dining was an opulent affair, with meals served on gleaming gold and silver dishes, and their gowns were exquisite creations adorned with precious gemstones. Beauty, the youngest, found herself alone in the magnificent palace. At first, she tried not to let fear overtake her. She wandered through the palace, discovering it to be even more breathtaking than her wildest imagination. She stumbled upon a set of rooms adorned with a sign that read, "Beauty's Chambers." Inside, she found books, music, canaries, Persian cats, and every delight to pass the time pleasantly. "Oh dear," she sighed. "If only I could see my dear father, I would almost be content." As she spoke, she happened to glance into a large mirror, and to her astonishment, she saw her father approaching their cottage. That evening, as Beauty sat down for supper, the Beast made his presence known. "May I join you for supper?" he inquired. "That is as you wish," replied Beauty. So the Beast. Night after night, the same scene unfolded. They shared their suppers, and the Beast would pose the same question. Each time, Beauty's reply remained unchanged. "No, dear Beast." Throughout this period, invisible hands attended to her needs, as though she were a queen. Enchanting music filled the air without a visible musician in sight. However, the most wondrous of all was the magic looking-glass, which granted her every wish. With each passing day, as her every desire was met almost before she uttered it, Beauty began to sense the profound love the Beast held for her. She couldn't help but feel sympathy for him, observing the sorrow that clouded his eyes each night when she rejected his proposal. One day, while gazing into the mirror, she witnessed her father's grave illness. That night, she approached the Beast with a request. "Dear Beast, you have been incredibly kind to me. May I please visit my ailing father? He believes me to be dead, and I long to comfort him. I promise to return faithfully." The Beast, with kindness in his eyes, replied, "Very well, Beauty, but do not tarry more than a week, for my heart would break from grief in your absence. You see, I love you dearly." "But how shall I find my way home?" inquired Beauty. "I know not the path." The Beast then presented her with a ring and explained its use. She was to wear it to bed, aligning the ruby with the palm of her hand. This would transport her to her father's cottage. When she wished to return, she was to repeat the gesture. The next morning, she awoke in her father's home, and the old man was overjoyed to see her safe and sound. Her sisters, however, were less welcoming, consumed by envy at her stroke of good fortune, living in a magnificent palace while they remained confined to their humble cottage. "I wish we had accompanied her," Marigold lamented. "Beauty always receives the best of everything." "Tell us of your grand palace," Dresselinda urged, "and how you spend your days." Amused by their curiosity, Beauty So, on the eve of her expected return, they concocted a treacherous plan. They mixed poppy juice into a goblet of wine, which they offered to Beauty. The elixir plunged her into a deep sleep that lasted for 2 days and nights. As her slumber grew restless, she dreamt of the Beast lying lifeless among the roses in his splendid garden. When she awoke, she was in tears, consumed by a profound sorrow. Once upon a time, in a world where time flowed differently, Beauty found herself back in the Beast's palace after a long slumber, though she wasn't aware that a week and 2 days had passed since her departure. A vivid dream compelled her to turn the ruby ring towards her palm, and when she awoke the next morning, she was indeed back in her familiar bed within the Beast's magnificent palace. Filled with eagerness to see him, she could hardly wait until supper. She called out for him, her voice echoing through the empty halls, but received no reply. Desperate to find him, she raced through the palace, her voice reverberating as she called his name. Yet the palace remained eerily silent. "Oh, what shall I do if I cannot find him?" she exclaimed. "I can never find happiness without him." Then she recalled her dream and dashed to the rose garden, where she discovered the beast lying lifeless beside the grand fountain. Beauty fell to her knees beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, dear beast," she sobbed, "are you truly gone? Alas, then I shall also wither away, for I cannot bear to live without you." As her words hung in the air, the beast stirred. Slowly, he opened his eyes and let out a sigh. "Beauty, will you marry me?" Overwhelmed with joy at his survival, Beauty exclaimed, "Yes, yes, dearest beast, for I love you with all my heart." In that moment, the coarse fur that had covered the beast's form fell away, revealing a handsome prince beneath, dressed in a resplendent doublet of white and silver, as if prepared for a wedding. He knelt before Beauty, taking her hands in his. "My beloved Beauty," he whispered, "only your deep love could break the enchantment that held me captive." A malevolent fairy had transformed me into a beast. So they departed for the palace, which was now bustling with courtiers eager to celebrate the prince's return and his union with Beauty. The prince whispered to one of his attendants, who left and quickly returned with Beauty's father and her sisters. Her sisters were transformed into statues, sentenced to stand guard at the palace gates until their hearts softened, and they felt remorse for their unkindness towards their sister. However, Beauty, now happily married to her prince, secretly visited the statues every day, shedding tears of compassion over them. Her tears gradually softened their stony hearts, and they were transformed into flesh and blood, forever changed into kind and loving sisters. Beauty and her beloved prince, who was no longer a beast but a handsome and kind-hearted monarch, lived in happiness for the rest of their days. And their love story, filled with